back, everyone. This is Griot of the Diaspora, and I am your host, Nakaira G, and we are back with another Griot News episode. So today we are going to be talking about East Africa. We are going to get into Kenya, we are going to get into Sudan, and we're going to be talking about Ethiopia, and then we're going to go over to West Africa. So we're going to be talking about Ghana, and we're going to be talking about Nigeria. So hopefully you guys have heard a little bit about the stories that we're going to talk about today, but if not, definitely stay tuned so we can get into it. It's time for Griot News. Okay, so let's start off with Sudan. Apparently, a militia has looted the museum, the Sudan National Museum. They have stolen artifacts dating back to ancient Egypt and ancient Nubia. And so apparently in Sudan, there have been for decades a very big issue with the militia that has been taking over different territories there. There have been too many wars going on, and the issues between South Sudan and Sudan just continues to get worse and oftentimes ignored. Apparently this militia is called the RSF, and they are backed by the UAE. And so if you do not know the history of Sudan, I would really implore you to do your homework. Sudan is the home of some of Africa's most important and richest history, as well as the earliest artifacts of African history. So Sudan is a very big major player when it comes to ancient African artifacts. As you can see in the photos, these are images that you would think would be only in Egypt. But Sudan is also the home of hundreds of pyramids that can also be traced back to ancient Egypt. So this is a really sad story. This is a really unfortunate story. Apparently the museum is in the territory that the RSF militia has currently occupied, and there has been a lot of displacement by this militia caused upon the citizens to migrate and look for safety. And this is a really dire issue. I also have a blog article on my website, www.nakedgoldonline.com, where I get in a little bit about the brief history of Sudan and why people are saying free Sudan. I know right now, especially this year, a lot of people are usually like free Sudan, free Congo, free Palestine. So I wanted to make some blog articles so that people can get a little bit more familiar with the different histories of how these countries have been going through some really unfortunate things and how they all kind of connect when you actually get into them. So that is what's going on with Sudan. Shout out to Sudan, praise for Sudan, and I will definitely stay tuned on this story. So let's move right along. Okay, so we are going to talk about Ethiopia right now. The President Ahmed Ali posted on X a few days ago with Bill Gates. He posted these 4 photos, and he apparently struck a deal, or maybe is planning something, but him and Bill Gates definitely were on X, seemingly having a nice conversation and thanking each other for the visit in Ethiopia. And apparently they plan to work together in health, agriculture, and financial inclusion. And so, as I've reported before in my last episode, where I talked about Kenya's partnership with Bill Gates and his foundation, this is another African president working with Bill Gates. And when it comes to agriculture, you can literally type in Bill Gates Africa in Google, and hundreds of articles will come up about how Bill Gates and his foundation have sabotaged and depleted so many parts of Africa through his planning of GMO seeds. And like I mentioned in another one of my videos, make sure you guys are watching older videos. Whenever you guys are catching up on these new videos, make sure you go onto the old ones, because a lot of my videos are going to kind of be continuations or follow-ups and updates to certain things. And in my video where I was talking with my guest Nzali, we were talking about the GMO craze that has been happening in Ghana and in different parts of Africa. So, for people who are moving to Africa from the US, the UK, those are things that you really want to keep in mind because GMOs are becoming an issue here. And they are becoming things that you don't necessarily know the difference because labels and things like that are not as prominent here as it would be back in the US or Canada or the UK. So those are things to really look for. Like I keep saying to people, I really don't understand why there are any African presidents in 2024 that are still working with Bill Gates. When you see Burkina Faso's president making it very clear that he does not want to work with colonizers, he does not want to work with any Europeans that want ownership over Africa's natural resources. And then you have the other side of the spectrum where there are some African presidents from countries that they say have never been colonized continue to work with people who do not have a good reputation in Africa. So we will just, like I always say, stay tuned on that. And I will definitely be looking into that because, I mean, when you look at the comments, even on X, a lot of the comments are really, really disappointing. And people are kind of questioning why this is even happening and why this is an option. So, let's move right along. So let's talk about the situation between Kenya and Uganda. A Olympic athlete has been murdered by her ex-husband. And this is a really sad story. It's not just a sad story about this one woman, but it's a sad story that femicide is a really big problem in Africa. Before I even get into the story, let's talk about femicide. Femicide is basically the murder and the extinction of female species of women. And the term femicide is really used throughout a lot of feminist writings and readings and things like that and philosophies, but really it is a human ideology as well. And feminism and femicide are things that, as much as people want to ignore it and they want to act like it's just this Western issue, it's really not. And so let's look at this story. So, according to BBC Nairobi, Olympic athlete Rebecca Cheptegei dies after being set alight by her ex-boyfriend. It's not really clear if it's her ex-boyfriend or her ex-husband, but anybody that was on social media for the past month knows that the Paris Olympics kind of just ended. So I don't even think it's been a month since the Paris Olympics have ended. And apparently her ex-boyfriend doused her in gasoline in front of their community, in front of their house, and lit her on fire. And this story comes out in 2024, and it's really alarming because this isn't the only story about an athlete, a female African athlete, being murdered in a similar type of way or particularly by their significant other. And so a Twitter user posted on this issue. And she said, a history of femicide of elite female athletes in Kenya. And she lists the names and the years, and she ends by saying, all by their male partners, none have been jailed. And this is within the span of 3 years. And so maybe for some people that is not a lot, but it is a lot. One is a lot. And it's really alarming because it makes you now want to pay close attention to the culture and what's going on in Kenya and Uganda, and why is it common amongst female athletes? What does the female athlete have to, what is that connection to domestic violence and to death? This is a really sad story. It's been shown all over social media. There's no way that you can miss it. And people are really talking about it, and they're really in uproar, and that's really good. But a lot of people are also very disturbed, and a lot of people feel disappointed that even the other women who this has happened to in the past 3 years have not received justice, and their partners have not been charged or convicted, and that most of them, if not all, have been given bail, and the bail apparently was not that high. And so there are accusations that there was an argument over a piece of land. Investigation is still happening, but I don't think that there's anything that I can read or see that will make me believe that that woman deserved to be lit on fire. Um, I think that that's a really, really gruesome act. And for her to have just competed in the Paris Olympics, and then she comes home, and 2 to 3 weeks later, this happens to her. That is really, really unfortunate. So hopefully there is some justice in this story. Okay, so let's get into the other side of the continent. And so we are taking a long flight over to West Africa. And so we are going to be talking about Ghana and Nigeria. I'm going to talk about Nigeria first. So let's talk about Nigeria really quick. So hopefully you guys are well versed on this situation that happened with the pageants. With Miss South Africa, there was an issue, and then now Shadima was able to go to Miss Nigeria Universe, and as she became the winner, and that was the excitement, and everyone was so shocked and so happy, all of that came crashing down so easily because advertisements came out shortly after of the contestants promoting skin whitening products. And so a lot of people do not know about the skin whitening epidemic that is all over Africa, especially West Africa. But yes, skin whitening, skin bleaching, skin toning is definitely a issue. If you consider it an issue, it is definitely a very big topic here. It's something that I wrote about in school years ago concerning Ghana and Jamaica. And one of these days, I will make a video on that and talk more in depth about skin bleaching, why people do it, yada yada, and things like that. But yes, so that was a little bit of controversy over the week. People felt like, how could Nigerians make all of this hoopla about what was going on in South Africa because a white woman won, and then here we are promoting skin whitening products. And like, no tea, no shade, but I mean, it's a valid critique at the end of the day. It was unfortunate. And so as you can see in these photos, there's the skin bleaching products. There are the contestants, standing in front of it, taking pictures. And that is considered normal on this side of the world. I know it's crazy to believe, but it is. So that's it for Nigeria. They're off the hook for this week, but let's jump into Ghana now. So there have been a lot of things that went on in Ghana. I'm going to start with the unfortunate stuff so we can just kind of get it out the way, and then we can go on to some other stuff. There was a Chinese man that was shot in Kumasi while riding a motorbike. And apparently this Chinese man is also a mining worker. I don't know if he's the owner of the mining company, but he apparently works at the mining. I don't know if it's illegal. I don't know if it's legal. But I thought that this was so interesting, especially because all of this conversation that has been going on about Galamsey. There has been this hashtag Stop Galamsey Now campaign that has been going on by citizens and people in the community, even people in the media, on the radio, not just social media, are talking about it, and they're posting so many videos and photos. The Galamsey is so bad that when you go to Google View, and you know how you can see like a satellite image of the location? The Galamsey is so bad that all of the spots that are supposed to be blue to show the water, it's brown. That is how it even looks from a satellite view. And so in my last video, I talked about how I could see the brown water when I flew from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire. I was able to see that from the airplane. So these images are not dramatic images. These images are really, really true, and it's really bad. And so a lot of people are talking about it because, this is election year. This is the time where all of the presidential candidates are talking about what they're going to do for Ghana. There has just been literally image after image, speech after speech, video after video talking about Galamsey. And so I really don't know how this could even um, fix itself. But yeah, so this Chinese man was shot, and there is rumors under the investigation that the person he was shot by were mining employees, apparently. So hopefully some more information come out about that. And I wonder what its connection to Galamsey it might be. An unfortunate story, another unfortunate story. A high school student was killed at his school by a stabbing of another student. And reports claim that the two students were arguing about whose father is richer. And so this happened in Accra, in the capital city of Accra. And there have been a lot of news stories about it, actually. There are media outlets that have already talked about it. And I don't have a lot of comments because I really honestly don't know what to say. I'm, I just don't know. Yeah, I don't even like, it's one thing about the stabbing, right? Because Ghana is supposed to be this place where like violence is kind of looked down upon and things like that. But then how does this happen, and how does this happen at your school? And it just kind of reminds me of the story that I just read about Rebecca, the Olympic athlete, because it's like that also happened just out in the open, just in the neighborhood. And I'm just really trying to figure out, like, how are these things just happening? Like in front of people. These things aren't even happening behind closed doors. How do you stab another student at your school? And I'm not going to talk too much about this story. I'll probably talk about it on another video, or this might be it. But there was another mass shooting in America, I think the same day of this story coming out in Ghana, of a 14-year-old shooting up the school and killing two teachers and two students back in America. And so this student apparently was about 16 years old, and he was 18 years old. Sorry, he was an 18-year-old student, which means that this was probably his last year of high school. And he just lost his life just like that over a conversation about whose father was richer. And the father actually did an interview about the situation or how he was feeling. It was probably less than 24 hours of him even finding out that his child was murdered like this. So I'm sure some more information will come out. This is just really, really a really heavy episode. And so I just want to pause before we get into the second part for Ghana. I'm making these videos and I'm talking about these things that's going on in Africa because I really, really think it's important for people abroad, Africans in the diaspora, whether you have direct links to Africa and you know exactly where you're from, or you are Black Americans, or you are Black Jamaicans, or whatever, and you don't have a direct connection and you're just traveling around Africa because you're really, really interested. I really think it is important that people research and find out what is going on in these different countries, especially when you guys are trying to integrate your children, your families, your businesses into these different countries. You have to be so aware of the climate, of the temperature, of the society, of what can possibly happen. This is really unfortunate about this murder, but there are more stories like this, and it's really unfortunate how this happened and how senseless, and it's a really unfortunate case. But I just really think that people who are planning to move abroad, people who are planning to move to Africa, move anywhere in the world, whether you're moving to Asia or just to another country, it is really smart to be well versed on politics that's going on. It is very important to be well versed on the politicians, people in government, what you have to look for, which countries have military, which countries have terrorist attacks. Like when I'm reading these stories, all I can think about are there are so many Black expats in Kenya. There are so many Black expats in Uganda and Rwanda. There are so many Black expats and Black people from all over the world who are traveling to these different countries and really have no idea what is going on or what has been happening, good or bad. And so I really think that I just hope like people pay more attention to what's going on, because the more people know what's going on, the more people can prepare or decide to not participate or go somewhere else, or make sure that you're not going to just any area, because it's really hard to find information coming out of Africa. But today with social media, it's becoming easier and easier and easier, but the average person just does not tap in. So hopefully you guys use my videos so that you can stay tapped in on what's going on, not just in Ghana, but all over Africa and everywhere that Black people are. Because we're not just talking about Africa. There will be stories about South America as well as the Caribbean. This show is always for the African diaspora in its entirety. So, all right, enough of that. So this is the part 2 of what's going on in Ghana. So just to kind of piggyback off of the Galamsey issue, here's some more images that have been shown about what's going on with Galamsey. And so it's becoming a really big campaign. Like I said, people are really trying to figure out, how do they stop this? Whose fault is it? What is going to happen next? How does this affect water? Because there's already a water issue here in Ghana. So that is something that people have been talking about, and these images are really alarming. Just look at how much of the water bodies are like completely destroyed. And I'm just so curious, like, what does it take to fix it? I have no idea, because that's not what I do. But hopefully I don't have to report on it too much, but I'm definitely going to be talking about it as much as I can until the water issue is better. So lastly, it is official. Starlink has officially launched in Ghana. Starlink is the internet service provider owned by Elon Musk. It has also come to other parts of Africa, so Ghana isn't the first country, but it's already here and people are starting to buy it. People are starting to buy the broadband services. It is expensive. It is regular priced as if it was in America. It's around $50 a month starting, and then he has different packages for business and stuff like this. This isn't an ad, so I'm not going to get really too much into that. But yeah, there's chit chat online. People are saying it's too expensive. People are saying this is crazy. And then some people are saying it's affordable, it's worth it. Because the internet service is kind of bad here, that's why people are like, if we're going to get better internet, we're going to get better internet. So that is what has been going on out here, you guys. So like I said, I'm going to always be making these videos just to keep people informed. It's going to be short and sweet if you want to know what's going on in the world. Always make sure that after my videos, you subscribe, you like, but also visit my website, nakedgoldonline.com. I have other articles on there where I go more in depth on certain stories, and I also have a shop on there where I'm selling different things and I'm partnering with other creatives in Ghana. So you will be able to see some businesses on there, some other artists on there as well. So definitely check it out. So that is it for today's episode.